we will see, but some kind of pay-as-you-go pricing seems to be what they're aiming for. Right. So I went back to my Codespace. So we've seen that, or my repository. We've seen that we can start a Codespace to work on a repository in general. We can customize our behavior by adding a dev container folder and then get a specific one, which I think is just what we want. This one will obviously follow along. If we go to a branch, then we can, if we update dependencies, add new tools, we update the container, it will be specific to that branch. So if I go and create a Codespace, it will start working from that branch. So we have options there as well. The third thing I wanted to show is that it's also integrated with pull requests. So quite a common thing that's a little bit preventive is that my teammates, they want me to contribute with on pull requests, but every time I should do that, I need to pause my development work and get another branch down on my machine. And with Git, you know, it's hard to have multiple versions in the same folder, so it's a bit of a hassle. So we don't do it as often as maybe we want or our teammates want. So what if we used Codespaces for this? Wouldn't it be great if we could quickly just spin up a test environment for verifying the pull request? So that's also something we can do here. So if I walk into the pull request, here's the PR. It's extremely complicated, but let's say it was. Then what I can do here is that I can also walk up to the Codespaces and say that, hey, I want to open this one in Codespaces. And we come across a small limitation that we currently have in the preview. So we can only have 2. So why don't I just go and get rid of one of these? Then I can create a new Codespace. So now it will spin up a new environment for verifying this pull request. And the neat thing here is that now GitHub knows that I'm in a PR, not just a repository. So it will bootstrap my VS Code session a bit as well. So it will be on the right branch. It will be aware of the pull request I'm in. I think it actually installs the Git pull request extension in VS Code if it's not already there. So I can continue to work on the pull request inside VS Code. So any other questions while we look at container building
Got a question
activities?
From Christine here. Will it automatically delete the Codespace once the PR is merged or rejected?
Good question. I don't know. What I've seen so far is that nothing gets deleted, but it gets hydrated after half an hour idle time. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a good thing to look into, but I guess you could quite easily solve it with the GitHub action in your repo. So whenever the PR is completed, you just clean up any associated Codespaces with it. I guess you could do something like that. All right, so this one is slowly coming to life here, and yeah, we'll see a very similar experience that we had before, but I just wanted to highlight the integration with the pull request. I'll go clean up while we wait. So here we can see what happens if you delete the Codespace while you're working on it. Then the session is, as expected, terminated. If I go to my Codespaces hub, we can also see what we have running here. So got a couple of different groups here, but depending on where I started this. But this one, we see that it's aware of that it's actually working on a pull request. So we get some feedback there. There's some logic also in the integration. So if you're working on stuff and you haven't pushed the code yet to GitHub, if you go and decide to clean up, it will prompt you that you have unfinished work, so you don't lose that. All right, so it's slowly loading up here.
Matthias, now we have 5 minutes left.
Yeah, and we're just on time, so that's perfect. So, except that I haven't synced my my settings. Maybe I want to do that. See if I get the dark theme back. But that seemed to be a little flaky for me. But what happened now is that we can see here that we're on the feature branch. So that's as expected. And we also have a small charm in the bottom here that says we're working on PR1. And I can look at that, review the PR, comment on it, just like I would expect. This one uses the extension for PR reviews, so I can go and open up the incoming files, whatnot. I can add comments to it, and so on. And that, of course, gets propagated back to the pull request here. And I will try to find it. We have the PR, and we should see that we got a comment here from the session where I was reviewing stuff. So easy to quickly go into a PR session and actually run and test things properly, comment on it, and when I'm done, I can just go back to my Codespace session and delete it, and I'm over and done with it, and of course close the PR and so on.
So Matthias, do you feel that this is going to replace having Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio on your local machine, or is it just a complement, or what are your thoughts and feelings now?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think we have a number of use cases for this. So certainly not going to replace all development, because all development environments, because sometimes you need to have a lot of iron and local things like devices and whatnot that can be complicated. But assuming that you can decide what size of container you want, then performance-wise, I think it will be fine. If you're not limited by coding in Visual Studio or VS Code, that should also be fine. So I think it's definitely a nice complement. And for open source, for inner source, for pull request work streams, really interesting technology. And we'll start working with this internally as soon as everyone can have access to it. So it should be super easy to switch context. But if I decide to change my local environment to this, yeah, for me, who's not coding as much as the average developer, it's really interesting because I don't have to keep my local environment in sync, and I don't have to install extensions and whatnot for every possible project I'm working on. I get a fresh set for the specific one. I also see a really big potential in training and education. So let's say we prepare repositories for students. They can just browse up to it, start a Codespace. They can run it from their Mac or a Chromebook or whatever. So they don't have to have any specific requirements on the machines. So it's super easy to get started. Then of course you want to train new people to actually know how to set up their environments at some point, but we don't have to bother about that in the beginning. So, like I said, this is still in public preview, so you can sign up for it. Go to GitHub Features/Codespaces. Here's the landing page to learn more. Just a documentation and all that stuff. So definitely recommend signing up. There's a bit of a queue, but it will probably move forward quite fast now that the announcement with VS Codespaces and so has happened. But anyway, so apply for it and start testing it out. And with that, I hope you've seen that there are ways to rethink how we look at our development environments, and this is an interesting option. Maybe start thinking about how containers would work with your application is a good first step. Start thinking about how it can be used in some environments, maybe not all. So the maintenance projects you touch rarely. Perfect starting point for Codespaces, in my opinion, and so on. So I definitely think this is an interesting technology to explore, and it will be really fun to see how it takes off when everyone can start using it. So with that, we're ready to.
Matthias.
Yeah, we have 1 minute to go. So you want to wrap up?
Sure. Thanks. It was really interesting and I think inspiring, and I will most likely try this out when it's available. Next event we're having in 2 weeks is about GitHub integration with Azure Devops, and I will be doing that. So I'll tell you how to work with, if you guys are using Azure Devops, how to use GitHub together with it efficiently. Mm-hmm. We have links to our meetup page and our events as well here on this page, and we will also post the recordings on YouTube afterwards, and you see this really nice link that you won't remember, so I will post the link to that both on LinkedIn and on our meetups. And if you have any questions about this and want to learn more or need help with this, please feel free to get in touch with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Magnus.